So about a month ago, I reviewed a movie called Super Troopers that was pretty darn funny to me, even most parts. But it's something I'd probably watch if it was on like HBO or something. But I said it's a movie you watch with your buddies or when you're drunk or you're stoned. And then I remember being some person that asked me way before that, "Have you ever watched Starship Troopers?" And I'm like, "Super Troopers?" No, they're like Starship Troopers from 1997. And this one is from the bridge of Fleet Battle Station Ticonderoga, with its sweeping galactic views, the desolate terrain of planet Klandathu, teeming with shrieking, fire-spitting, brain-sucking special effects creatures. Acclaimed director Paul Verhoeven creates a dazzling epic based on Robert A. Heinlein's classic sci-fi adventure. Casper Van Dien, Dina Meyer, Denise Richards, Jake Busey, Neil Patrick Harris, Patrick Muldoon, and Michael Ironside star as the courageous soldiers who travel to the distant and desolate Klandathu system for the ultimate showdown between the species. Now, Starship Troopers is also the name of a Yes song from the Yes album in the late 60s, I think, after their first one. But of course, it's also an 1959 sci-fi novel that challenged many things with its, some people would call it, its far right-leaning political views and its observations on fascism, anti-fascism, satire, things like that. It was certainly very controversial and still sparks some debate to this day. And one of the names here was what was his name? Don something, the guy who directed RoboCop wanted to have like another movie that was very specific like this, and tried for a long time. Said, okay, let's do Bug Hunt at Planet 7, something like that, and tried to get it made, and had all these special effects and everything. Then noticed that there were similarities to said novel, and said, okay, let's readjust the script and try to get it to work. But it's like they try to get funding, try showing like 3D, like trying to show the CG of like early CG of the bugs and everything. It's like it was starting to work out. Wasn't through a lot of pre-production and trying to make everything look right. Eventually, this novel came out. At first, I thought this would have been a comedy, but it's a straight up sci-fi. And finally, after having seen this, how do I feel about it? Well, there's what I've noticed. There's a couple of different sides to this movie. One is the obvious sci-fi action. Some would call it just dumb fun of combating against a bunch of bugs. The bugs were a big part in the novel, and they are indeed a menace, just capable of slaughtering things. It's just like they're able to just rip apart a human being, and like guns and things like that. They can, like the humans can combat these giant bugs, but these are vicious creatures, these insects, and it's just a fight to desperately get them. The second one, yes, there is some teen romance going on, and it's there, it's fine. But this is what you see in a summer blockbuster. It's not Sleepless in Seattle. It's not Gone Girl. It's not When Harry Met Sally. It's your standard basic performances that Neil Patrick Harris managed to shed the Doogie Howser character that he played, and it was like, hey, I'm able to finally star in something a little bit more adult, I guess would be the word. So it was like it gave some rise to that. And in case you're wondering, Jake Busey is Gary Busey's son, so that was kind of funny to see the hair of all things. But yeah, it's like this novel is, and there's also all the political machinations going on, including the fascism satire parody, whatever. It's like do your part. You look like at all the propaganda posters. There's like even a part, I would say like roughly 30 minutes in, it's where they had FedNet, which was meant to be like the combination of a TV and a computer. I mean, sure, I even have a smart TV, so it's just like where it's like they load up a different section, like where you could be one holding the gun, and that is going to bill these insects, and they see a little action happen, and it's like, would you like to see more? Then they cut to like a scientist that is dissecting the creature, and said, here on this planet, you can see these scientists dissecting and learning about the creature. And then a violent scene happens. Would you like to see some more? And then the training where a scene happens, and it's like, would you like to see some more? All with having like a little browser, and then some font that is of course being a satire of the 1950s military way. I mean, this could be in any country in the world. And also a tribute to some sci-fi novels back then. But there's also the phrase that, it's like, to be the enemy, you have to know the enemy, you have to be the enemy. It could also be like this guy, Ric Flair. Woo! To be the man, you have got to beat the man. But anyway, it's just, this novel blends it well. It's a good blending of things, even if you kind of have the standard performances. Standard where you can tell who the actor is and what they do over time, but none of them really stand out. They're cromulent. Acceptable is the word, And that's what this movie is. This movie is like, you can view it as for the satire, you can view it for the romance, you can view it for the CG. And the CG, there's a scene about, what was that, roughly an hour and 30 minutes in, where they're on this desolate outpost, and just this bug after bug just comes in, and it is quite an intense scene. I mean, there's viscera, there's blood, everything going on, and just all this futuristic weaponry of just this infinite swarm of bugs just comes in. It was a sight to see, I'll tell you that. It's like all the weapons, and we even get to see what's known as the brain bug that takes place later, and it's like, it learns by just sucking the brain from a victim and literally, what's the word, like absorbing the knowledge of how to defeat its foes. And it's just very interesting. It's very interesting to see that there's also the standard training, because it was like, when some people were looking at the novel, like how it's aged, or the 1950s style of writing, like one scene over another. Some people said the first and third acts were really great, but the second act was slow. So it was like they trimmed some of the fat. It's like they kept in some of the basic training. Like the handling of the guns, the running, teammate, like working in a team, things like that. Anything you would see on like a base. And also Z-Man, if you're watching, technically this counts as a military movie. I recommend you watch this one, even though it's a sci-fi movie. But anyway, yeah, the special effects are great. It just feels like a complete movie. But although some people had like a problem with, because there was just rampant, like when everyone was showering together, it's like they were talking about like where they were all coming from, like what their purpose is here. And of course, there's a whole bunch of nudity going on, which some people just felt gratuitous. Others may view it as like how the sexuality has just been. It's like the discussion of violence and sexuality at the same time, where it's like they just become kind of immune to it. That even though they're like all completely naked, showering and discussing the violence, it's just a jarring scene, just to show that it's like how they've become kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not desensitized, but it's not exactly high on their list. So they say that what you will. It's just like, it's just meant to be. You can look at this movie with different layers. You can see this movie as a way of like military propaganda, the way how it makes fun of it. You can see it as a reference to all the 1950 movies. Very specifically, one I noticed is that there's some bugs. There's a cave. Let's throw a grenade in there. I think that was like a reference to the ending of Them from, what was that, with spiders from 1953. So I found that to be an interesting homage, whatever. So how do I feel about this myself? Well, after seeing it, I was entertained. I felt like that, it connected with me with all of its satire and parody and things like that. And it's a good way to kill 2 hours, but the acting is okay. It's fine. I like the training grounds and the music was fine. It's like I said, I usually give these types of movies about a 7 out of 10. So if you want to see a good sci-fi movie that's got some, you could either view as a good time with some layers, some sexual gratuity, things like that. I recommend that you watch Super Troopers, baby.